nothing wrong with them. And so yeah, that's just, and I work 95% with young people. So sometimes if, if my language is, um, use it as a practice if it's difficult. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Great, great. Exactly, exactly. And that's what I see. And maybe I'll get into that. But yeah, just also just appreciating and wanting to acknowledge all the causes and conditions and uh, that came together for us to be here in this moment. Appreciating that and um, just wanting to kind of honor the young people that I've worked with. I'm standing on their shoulders, standing on the shoulders of my, you know, Dharma lineage, my ancestors. Um, yeah, and then I kind of, have a wife and child at home, and just kind of uh, offering blessings from Aloni Land, from Oakland, from the young people that I work with. Justice is the name of my child. And, yeah. Anyways, I think that's probably good enough. So I'll guide us in some practice. I'll offer practice, and um, I want to say, take care of yourself. If I say anything, just in general, whether it's the guiding of the meditation and the talk, if I say anything that doesn't resonate, just let it go if you can. And if I say something that goes against your deepest understanding of what is true for you, I say don't let it go. Please, I think there's important to acknowledge what's happening here in this kind of speaking and listening and this dynamic. And I think there's reverence and like respect in this dynamic. And my part is to really kind of um, stay on track with, um, you know, um, skillfulness and like, sticking with the Dharma and like, setting out my opinion and ego and all that stuff. And then I guess the invitation is to, if I do say something that goes against your deepest understanding of what is true for you, to come find me, to let me know. I want to understand. I want to listen. I want to be in connection. I want to, if connection was broken, I want to try to repair that and come back to connection. So, um, yeah, that's it. That's all I'll say for now. So, settling in and yeah, even before just noticing, right? Just like we're like, all right, we're going to start the meditation now and notice what happens in the mind and body. I think a big part of practice is kind of untangling, dismantling different like systems of oppression. And one of the systems for me is like rigidity, right? And so you can be relaxed as you need to be. Um, yeah, sitting on the floor or cushion, if you want to lay down, like the invitation is to really take care of yourself and have your screen off, on, looking away from the camera, looking out at the sun. If you want to turn your chair and look at the out in the window, I really invite you to like just take a moment, and I'm just gonna stop talking for a couple minutes for you to just question, say, hey, body, what do you need? What does the body need? And we listen and respond. You to orient yourself in time and space. You can do that with your eyes open or closed. It's supportive for my nervous system to really get a sense of where I am in space and time. I like to even scan the room that I'm in, kind of doing almost a 360 behind me, what's in front of me. And as I scan through, I like to try and track or just allow my eyes to rest on something nourishing and beautiful. And just see if I can allow that to just, yeah, nourish me. And I also know that if I choose to shift, close my eyes, turn inward a little bit more, that if at any moment overwhelm starts to arise, or just in a moment where there's this knowing that I need to stop and change something, that I can go to what's beautiful. I can find something pleasant to rest my attention on. And finding a way to position the body that feels good. And when I say feels good, I mean feels grounded, supportive. And check in with yourself, see if it feels good to have your eyes open or closed. And trust yourself. And giving ourselves full permission to arrive. I find deep breaths supportive to guide my attention back to the present moment. Letting go of the future, the to-do list, the planning, the what's next. Letting go of the past, letting go of any expectation, and seeing if we can trade that all in for a direct experience of right here, right now. And knowing there is a body posted in this posture. And I like to do kind of a quick body scan, support softening. And start from the crown of my head, making my way through the body. And tracking for any places, the intention is to soften. I'm softening where I can, and I'm bowing down and honoring the intelligence of my body where it's saying, not right now, not yet. So softening the forehead, little micro muscles around the eyes, relaxing the jaw, tongue, allowing gravity to do its job, gently hugging the shoulders, the body downward. And so many times, so often, I don't even realize how braced I've been. Relaxing your arms and your hands, upper back, chest, softening the belly. Another place where I hold so much tension. Feels like the mammal part of my body also, just when it's in fear, tightens to protect myself. And then on top of that, there's culture where we're not allowed to have a soft belly. And seeing if we can give ourselves full permission to allow our bellies to be round and full and soft. And making your way down towards your toes. Get to the ground, the earth, invitation to acknowledge our support systems. Pachamama, earth being one of them, holding us up, supporting our practice. Other beings that I like to bring into have my back and bring in my ancestors, mentors, the historical Buddha, the wisdom teaching, y'all, I take refuge and bring you all in as a support system in my practice this evening. And finding this thing we call our attention. And the invitation for the next few minutes or so will be to uh, rest your attention on your anchor. For whatever reason, this is unfamiliar language for you. I'll offer some options. You can open to the sense door of sound, resting your attention on sound. Noticing the sounds in the room, the soundscape, sound of my voice, sounds outside. Guess you could argue this, but sound happening right now in this moment. If you feel like playing with it, invite you to bring your attention to either the palms of your hands or bottoms of your feet, or a place in the body that feels pleasant or neutral. Getting a sense of feeling your hands, maybe from the inside out. A place where we can rest our attention, that we can come back to in the present moment. And of course, the breath, allowing our attention to move to the breath that feels good to you. Finding the place in your body where you feel contact with the breath the most. Typically, one of two places, at the rising and falling of the belly or tip of the nose. Wherever you feel it most, just posting your attention there and riding the waves of sensation. Whatever anchor feels most supportive to resting in the present moment. The invitation that I hear from the Buddha is to get close, to get curious, kind of switch from the intellectual, cerebral understanding to a direct felt experience. And then when the mind wanders, which it will, that's what it does, no big deal. There's a moment where we have a choice point, one to be gentle with ourselves. No need to hammer ourselves for a moment of awakening. I think that's a part of the point. And then can I be willing to start over again? whether the mind is restless or sleepy, please don't use that as some barometer for how you're doing. Right now, it's like this: restless mind, busy mind, not a problem. Right now, it's like this: sleepy. Oh, actually, that feels really pleasant if I surrender to it. Now, of course, if we're wanting to work with these things, different strategies we may have learned, the mind is feeling restless. I like to then bring my attention down into the ground, to the base. Sometimes I like to fill the auditory space in my mind, like skillful means. I'll count. I'll use a counting method. In breath one, out breath one. In breath two, out breath two. And so on to five. And then I start over again. And this works as a feedback loop, the way that the mind can kind of mm, mask this my attention. And when I get to my intention is to stop at five and I catch myself at 20. Oh, feedback. Feeling sleepy, I'll adjust my posture, maybe open my eyes if my eyes were closed, bring in more light, take some deep breaths, bring in more energy, stand. All supportive to strategies to support attention, presence. In this first foundation, we're given full permission to ignore our mind. Don't get rid of anything. Just allow everything else to kind of be in the background. Sounds, thoughts, and allowing our chosen object of awareness to be in the foreground. returning to curiosity, to beginner's mind. I know for me, it's not interesting if I'm not interested. And what I'm asking my mind to do is very strange for my mind. Curiosity, getting close, getting intimate with the breath, with your anchor. And as we refine our attention, we begin to notice that in each moment, there's what we call around here a feeling tone. We either like it, we don't like it, or it bores us. It's our response to pain, pleasure, neutrality. You get to see for yourself, to watch and feel somatically what happens to the body, mind. When there's aversion, pushing away, you get to directly experience somatically what it feels like to cling. And we get to hopefully witness this through eyes of compassion, to acknowledge that we are in an innocent body, innocent in the sense that it's natural for it to feel pain and pleasure, and natural for us to want more pleasure and less pain. From this perspective, Buddhists, our happiness and our instincts are at odds. Our instincts push away, hold on. Our happiness is requiring us to care about pain, to feel pleasure. Like, don't get it twisted. We're not saying don't feel the good stuff. Soak it up with every fiber of your being. Just try not to cling to it. People call it a non attached appreciation. And of course, there's neutrality, which is an absence of pain. We get to watch in our own experience what happens when there's not some kind of extreme pain or extreme pleasure, or to watch our relationship with boredom. And noticing what's happening in this moment. pleasant fantasy, painful memory. And I move towards compassion for any unpleasantness. And I relate to the pleasant with non-attached appreciation. In my own experience, I didn't go from hating pain to loving pain. There were stepping stones. It's like, can I tolerate this discomfort in my knee for 3 more breaths? Can I have mercy on myself? The power to relinquish, right? The suffering. And then eventually we come to know that the only wise response to pain is care. The last 10 minutes or so, I thought I'd offer some metta practice if you're up for it. So the invitation is to find our attention rested on the breath, but then imagine that you're breathing in and out of, for a lack of a better word, your heart space, or what I like to articulate as this kind of feeling corridor, like where we feel emotion. And for me, I feel that in my belly, my chest, my throat, behind my eyes. And I imagine that I'm kind of breathing in and out of this space, noticing what's present for you. How's your heart? And knowing there's no right or wrong way to feel, and doing our best to allow whatever it is to exist, meeting it appropriately. And I'll invite you to acknowledge some things. One, on one hand, acknowledging our deepest desire to be happy, to be free, deepest desire for liberation. I have some sense that every move that I make is a move towards a sense of ease, happiness, freedom. And I may have been a little confused about how to approach. But I see now, I just wanted to be happy. And on the other hand, acknowledging how hard it is to be human sometimes. Being human is intense. There's nothing wrong with us. We are not our fault. We have a nervous system that hurts, a heart that feels like it can break, a mind that feels like tyranny sometimes. So, in between this deep desire for liberation and this acknowledgement of the intensity of being human, what arises, what's induced for me is compassion. Mm. One of the ways to practice this metta, compassion, heart practice is to find words that feel meaningful and useful and nourishing. And for me to hear them in my own voice and to continue to offer myself these wishes, offer some words that I use, but use the words that work for you. May I be filled with love and kindness. May I be held in the warm embrace of compassion. And may I learn to love all of me, this body, this mind, this life. May I remember who I really am. Finding your own words and like a mantra, just repeating them to yourself. And of course, we set our intention to not pretend. The way this practice feels like it works for me is a phrase, is like a ringing of the bell, and the reverberation is where I'm tasked to meet that with kindness and care, and what reverberates might be. or judgment, anger, I don't deserve this? Can we love those stories to death? Taking time for the last few rounds of loving, nourishing, kind wishes. And bringing that attention back into the heart space. Again, noticing what's present. Again, there's no right or wrong way to feel. Understanding, acknowledging that this is a process, a practice. Maybe ending the way we began and feeling the earth beneath you, contact points, opening up to the sense doors, that contact, seeing even behind the closed eyes, hearing is happening, smelling, tasting, the emotional body. If you brought your crew with you, honoring them, bowing to the support, offering any gratitude, appreciation to community or Sangha for answering the call to take our warrior stances in the midst of all the things, to cultivate wisdom and compassion. That's pretty cool. Thank you. And notice what it feels like to be getting love and appreciation from all the folks. And as we close, whatever feels supportive for you to support transition and closing, that might be a couple of more deep breaths, a hand on your heart, movement in your body, whatever you need. Mm. Thank you for your practice. Mm. Mm. Second time. Mm. Before I launch into any kind of talk that I have prepared, Curious if there's any questions about the instructions, anything that you noticed that you'd want to bring into the room. That's okay to ask. Mhm. I know we just finished practicing, so it's like hard to talk, all that stuff. I just wanted to, just in case there was.
Candle, she, hers. Um, I really appreciated the variety of what I could do when I started my practice
Mm,
because I remember how much I have really enjoyed looking out the window, or being outside practicing.
mhm,
And so just looking around the room and finding my location in the room and then looking out the window and, just realizing all of a sudden spring has sprung and all of the trees are in full leaf formation
mm,
now.
mm,
The last time we were in this room, no leaves,
mm,
lots of rain.
mm,
So, anyway, thank you for that reminder of the various ways of getting grounded in the practice.
Thank you. Zoom link. So I was reminded that the name of my talk today is um, When the Dukkha Hits the Fan, um, Dharma Tools, yeah, for this moment. And Dukkha, Dukkha. Hmm. So, I mean, it's like we can just kind of maybe begin to with, yeah. So, I'm in my head around like context. I'm just like, okay, how much context do I need to give when I'm teaching? But I'm just going to give the context. And um, the Buddha kind of metaphorically kind of began this kind of the wheel, all right, uh, turning the wheel of the Dharma after his awakening underneath the Bodhi tree, and he found his homies, and he offered the teaching, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and um, yeah, there's just this normalizing and acknowledging that life is difficult. And it was just so important for me because I hope my whole life I thought there was something wrong with me, right? So the normalization and of that there is difficulty in life and that is not my fault is really helpful. Mm. And then there's this layer of how I was kind of, playing with words. The dukkha sounds like dookie, shit, poop. I don't know if I'm just trying to like, I'm used to cussing. I'm trying to like be good, but I'm just gonna be me. Um, and so what's the shit? And the shit is, right? I mean, let's go look at it in two contexts. Look at a social context, the oppressive system, right? The racism, the sexism, the xenophobia, the transphobia, the ableism, all the fears, and so the dukkha feels like that there's so much wounding and generation after generation after generation after generation of pushing away pain, clinging to pleasure, that it feels like, we just have a bunch of people hurt people, hurting people. And the practice that we're doing here, mindfulness, I think is inherently anti-oppressive because it allows everything. And what it also allows for me is to acknowledge, right, that we all started off as babies. I just had a baby recently, just in case he's 7 months old, um, and babies are fully expressed. I don't know if anyone's been around a baby lately or not, but babies are free. My baby eats his feet all the time. He loves himself completely. There's no shame, no pride, fully expressed. I don't know how much I'm still kind of trying to figure out this like intrinsic compassion that people say are talking about. I'm like, I don't know if he's intrinsically compassionate yet. Um, but he is free. He's fully expressed. When he's happy, we know it. When he's pissed, we know it. And then what happens? That was all of us, just in case we forgot, because I know it's easy for to forget. And then what happens, right? You can just imagine all the different scenarios of a child's life. Maybe he's born to parents with lots of resources, and maybe they're not, around a lot because they're accumulating those resources, and that child has to work with, certain needs not being met. Or this child is born to two teenagers and is dealing with the trauma of poverty, um, and all this stuff. And then what is it? Is this child learning at home, pre-verbally? Like what kind of, like my mom didn't, no one, she didn't have an emotional intelligence. No one taught her. Right, so when she had me and she wasn't able to like attune and name my feelings, I didn't learn about having a kind of lexicon and like naming feelings until I was an adult. And, I literally had this for some practices, like with one coach, like teacher, mentor, or whatever of mine, like watching a movie and naming, like, what is that emotion? You know? Um, and just fast forwarding, y'all know the story of the clay Buddha story. Is it? Yeah, it's a true story. I think it's back in the 70s in Thailand, and there was a monastery, and they're expanding in the city, and yeah, and so for those who did not, I'll make it quick. They're needing to build, highways and stuff, and so there's this monastery kind of in the way, and so they need to move the monastery. Not a big deal, but they have this like I think it's like 200, 300 foot clay statue, and they love their statue, even though they're, not supposed to be clingy, but it's an old statue, and so they want to, they preserve it. And so they figure something out and they're going to crane this kind of statue and move it. And as they're doing that, it starts to crack. And so they put it down, and it's rainy season maybe there, and they start to tarp it up, and as they're and it's in the evening, and as they're kind of like investigating the damage, the crack with flashlights, they're seeing this reflection shining back on them, and they start to excavate through, and they realize that this Buddha that they've had for 300 years or so was made of solid gold, and they had no idea what the value of this Buddha. And so they go back into the history books and they realize, there's Burmese army coming through, and war happens, and people are dying or moving, leaving, and new folks kind of migrate through, and they land in this land, and there's this Buddha, and it's a big clay statue. Um, or as the people are coming through, that they covered the statue up because they didn't want it being taken because it's valuable, right? So they covered it up. So new people come through, and there's this clay statue. Um, and they didn't realize the value of their statue, and that's the metaphor. Like these, at least that's what I relate to. This innocent little being, lots of conditions, lots of fear, not a lot of strategies to help learn and support feeling, allowing things to exist, moving through, having compassion, right? All the things. And so I do my best to survive and I start to protect myself. Right? Deep bow to the little boy that was doing his best to protect himself through drugs, through fighting, through isolation. Um, and then all of a sudden, I'm this adult that's armored, and I literally, and like to survive in my neighborhood, I had to put on tough. Um, And so that's what how I see the practice for me has been about an excavation process. Right? It's about remembering who I am, and and the process. If anything, like if you're thinking about an excavation process, it's like each phrase, each time I return with gentleness, kindness, feels it's like a scoop. You may not feel it in that moment, right? It may not feel like it's working, but it's working. Hmm. And so, the heart practices feel like a way, a place to go, right? If we're talking about tools for right now, it's like, um, how can I'm all about dismantling oppressive systems outside of me. Important work, valuable work. Um, but it doesn't feel aligned if I'm not dismantling the oppressive systems within myself. Right? The yeah. Um, so um, one of those systems is, like I hating myself. I learned how to I hate myself. And, so that's why, and that's I think it was important to add in the phrase when I first started doing loving kindness, when I first started hearing these teachings about the intrinsic value, that there's nothing wrong with me, like didn't resonate. And, I came in through the door of addiction. So I kind of came in through the 12 steps rooms, and there was like community, and then in there was like this phrase that people would use is like, let us love you until you can love yourself. So like Sangha became like a mirror, you know? And wise action became um, the kind of catalyst to supporting more self-esteem, right? Like I was being of service, like that, Dharma, Buddha Dharma, 12-step Dharma. I think they're both tasking us to take full responsibility for what's happening in here, and that the residual of practice is service. That the more I practice, the more I open my heart, the more I let go of, um, the more it just makes sense to like be of service and to help. Yeah. So that being said, yeah, I just started doing these practices, and what was coming up was like the opposite, and um, so funny, so interesting this role. I'm like blanking it, but it's like, yeah. So I'm just gonna take a moment to like resettle. I'll just go over them because again, it's just like context. So loving kindness. If you're unfamiliar with loving kindness, metta, this is where you see what's good and you wish for more of it, right? Compassion um, is when you see what's difficult and you wish for the difficulty, the release. Um, Mudita, one of my favorite words, appreciative joy, right? This is the countering of envy, jealousy. This is like, I want you to be happy. I want you to have the resources and the things that you need to be happy. Um, and then equanimity, in this particular lens, holds all these in balance, right? So I don't fall into the near enemy of whatever compassion or loving kindness, whether it's codependency or I'm going to be nice to you if you're nice to me, like an exchange, or um, once, yeah, so these near enemies. And yeah, and equanimity sounds like I want you to be happy. I'm proud of you. No, I understand your pain and your happiness or unhappiness is independent of my wishes for you. Now, it depends on the tone and how you hear that. That can feel harsh. But if when I sit with it, it feels very true and an honoring and have a compassionate lens even for myself to would I have the capacity to change or not change, right? I mean, just, how often do we try to change other people, right? Every relationship we've been in, I don't even bother. I don't even ask you to raise your hand, right? It's just like, of course, and we keep trying, but if we can't change other people, who can we change? Ourselves, and not who we are intrinsically, because there's nothing wrong with us, but the way that we look at ourselves. I mean, I can't be the only one that was his own worst enemy by the time I was in sixth grade. We live in this Western culture that it's permeated into, and then there's the religious context, whether you are not or whether you are or aren't, because of it's the majority and um, of this kind of lens around that there's something intrinsically wrong with you lens, which is a lens that you can have. It's different than mine. Um, Hmm. and we're going to 6:30, right? And 6:10, we'll do some Q&A. Um, and so to kind of bring this back to what feels like the most important thing is like love, and not the kind of love that is like the sentimental feeling, but the knowing, the subscribing to like the belief that everybody, including all of my enemies, all the people that I don't like, deserve to have, to be free, to have the resources and access to those resources. And as my teachers have reminded me, like, I don't have to like everybody, but my commitment is to love everybody. That to allow my heart to be expanded by the challenges. But that's my commitment, and it's not easy. It's a practice, but it's my commitment, and that feels, when I think about like the greatest leaders and like spiritual warriors and social justice warriors, the Martin Luther Kings or the Nelson Mandelas or um, maybe Harriet Tubman, I believe, yeah, they all had this deep faith in something that allowed them to go through the trauma they went through and come out the other end with their magnanimity and their peace. Like a Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison, loving his enemies still. And I don't think Nelson Mandela is any more special or has any more skills than any of us in this room. That we all have the capacity to do this. And yeah, and I know that I do it because I want to be free. I want to be free. Everything that and I love like pushing my physical, emotional edges and boundaries so that like, yeah, hmm, yeah, I'll pause, I'll stop because I'm just kind of rambling. But just cute, any, because I usually I'm used to like back and forth, so I'll pause and if there's any questions or any thoughts, and then we can go from there. How's that? Sweet. And and I feel the OTP. It is an opportunity to practice, and I hope that everyone, yeah, my own opportunity. Cool. Sweet. Hmm. Oh, yeah, great. Margaret, how you doing? I'm not supposed to touch that.
Yeah, thank you, Enrique. You said some beautiful things, and one thing that arose in my mind when you began to talk about equanimity was our karma. One of the things that is so beautiful about the practice is that we have this opportunity, and we're encouraged to meet that karma that comes up in us with skillful means, hopefully.
Hmm.
And that's where our beautiful opportunity is. And that's where we can begin to shape, our lives. And I'm just very deeply grateful for the practice. I've been in love with it for many, many years. And to me, it's just an incredible opportunity every moment. So I guess that's all I'll say right now.
Thank you, Margaret. Yeah, every moment, opportunity. OTP. I learned a long time ago. I use it. It's just like, one of the prayers, the Tibetan prayers that I took on for my own practice early on is, may I be met with the appropriate difficulties today.
Mhm, mhm.
Because whether I
Right.
ask for it or not, the
Yeah.
proverbial shit is gonna hit the proverbial fan.
Yep.
And I'm typically used to living in this victim mentality. It's just like when I got that ticket on the car, it's like, man, that person, right, or whatever.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, and if I see it as an opportunity to practice compassion,
Yeah.
there's enough. Thank you, person in line with 20 items in a 10-item line, right? Thank you. Right? And as I find myself suffering, sometimes when I first started suffering and stuff like that, I would offer them compassion. I'm like, oh, or try to send them metta. But then I realize I'm actually the one suffering. Right?
Yeah.
I need to send myself some
Yeah.
care. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So thank you for, yeah, sparking.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. And I just want to say that it can be a rough road.
Yeah,
It's a rough road, but
absolutely.
it's so valuable. It's so worth it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Margaret. And I think acceptance comes up in this, like as a word, and it's something that comes up a lot, and it's a word that's a little bit sticky. And because of course I don't, in this kind of base level maybe thinking is like I don't want to accept that this stuff is happening right now. um but for me there's this kind of spiritual teaching around I have to like touch the ground. I have to acknowledge it to change it. I have to touch the ground to like start to move forward. um and so this kind of when we're speaking of dukkha and suffering, it's kind of like, oh yeah, like deep acceptance of what's happening right now is happening right now. And then from there, right, whether it's me, right? I have to love all the parts of myself, the unskillful, the dude that showed up for a talk that didn't talk for 20 minutes and bombed it or whatever. Like I have to like love all of that. And then from there, I can move towards shifting. But then there's even another step, right? Of like whatever it is, sometimes the acknowledging, I'm avoiding the acknowledgement because then there's the deep sadness and the grief, right? So I'm not going to accept that. And it becomes like this kind of like, yeah, fuck acceptance, right? We're not going to fuck that serenity prayer. But it's just like, can we actually stop here and actually acknowledge? It's not condoning, it's not celebrating, it's not making it okay. It's just saying that this is what's happening. Right?
Yeah, excuse me, but we need to tell the truth.
Mm,
This is, you know, we need to be truthful.
yeah.
And I think that's just sort of a different way of saying what you just said.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Thank you. Yes, please, Rob.
Hi, Enrique. So good
Yeah.
to have you here. And yeah, your presence is so helpful to me.
Mm,
Uh, you know, our stories of suffering are all unique in some ways, and society and the external life changes over the centuries, and yet the Dharma has proven itself over and over again. And here we are now. Um, I yeah, I'm so full of gratitude and really appreciate your words and your presence.
mm,
Uh, so thank you so much.
thank you. Appreciate you.
I'm gonna take like 10 seconds to figure out what I'm trying to say.
Mhm,
Yeah, so I had an intense practice, which I was expecting.
mm,
Um, so I've been avoiding practice a lot because practicing has been really hard. Um, and so the good news is that it's the longest I've sat in a while, and so it allowed me. I was able to see a lot of like what is hard in practice and why I haven't been wanting to do it. Um, And so I'm going to share a little bit of that, and then a question will come out of that, I think. But yeah, so I noticed first, like, um, noticing what was happening, and kind of this cool thing was happening where something would come up, it would be aversion or clinging, and I'd see the thought, and instead of sort of responding or noticing the thought, I'd notice kind of the feeling of it or the quality of it, and it'd say, oh, that thing, like I know that thing, and sort of just give that thing space, right? So it's like almost like a certain, I don't know, like a feeling here that is attached to a thought, and recognizing that that thought is just fueling this thing that's like a comes up in my life and in my practice. Does that make sense? Right. So that was helpful, right? To unattach from the thoughts, and that just gave it space to kind of do its thing, and um, either give it more space or it would just kind of pass. So I was having a lot of fun doing that, and that was good. And then I think kind of once I made enough space that like my nervous system was like, oh, okay, it's safe to like work through the hard things, and the hard things came up, and in particular, being trans as I am, right now in this time in the politics and all those things, that like that thing then came up, and that thing was overwhelming and hard to be with. And I can't even quite remember what happened after that, but I noticed that the tools I was using before I couldn't use anymore. And there was an awareness of like, yep, this is the thing. Like this is why practice has been hard. Um and I was able to not like spiral or anything in it, but I also noticed that the rest of my practice, it was almost as if there was like a film layer over everything else, like actually being in the present. Like I could kind of fake that it like I was kind of in the present, but there was this layer over it, if that makes sense. Uh, and that layer was like sort of this like numbness, and there was just a general quality of unpleasantness that made me be like, I don't, I don't like this. I don't want to be in this pain. It's too much. Um, and yeah, I noticed the metta helped a little bit, but that was just sort of clarifying for me of like, oh, this is what's been going on in my practices. And I think this was the most clear I've been able to be about it, of like, oh, I see it. Um, but yeah, so yeah, that's what happens for me every time I sit down right now. And I think um, I'm struggling to figure out how to continue practicing, and I want to because I know that's helpful. Like ultimately, like that's where the movement comes from, is like being able to be with the hard things. Well, been my experience in general with the practice. But struggling to figure out how to be with this. And then the other realization I had, which was just a good sort of like wire connection for me, was I had a discriminatory experience at work a few months ago. And I think I thought it wasn't bothering me. Sorry, I'm talking on. I hope that's all right with everyone. Um, but I wasn't aware of how it affected me. And as you were talking, that connection was made, that like this sort of like quality that's been really overwhelming that's related to the politics absolutely is that too. Um, I think the last thing I'll say is like the quality is this sense of unsafety, and that I shouldn't feel safe, so I shouldn't relax. I shouldn't go back into metta or staying with the present moment or focusing on the pleasant object, because I actually shouldn't feel safe. I shouldn't let myself feel safe. Um, yeah, so wondering if you have any ideas how to work with that. Thanks.
Turn this down while I was drinking water. Sorry about that. Um, but there's part of me is just like curious what more kind of like patience or just like a shift in, because I hear that you're like, this works for me. This has worked for me in the past. Sitting, I know I need to like, but I would question that. I don't think, personally, I don't think sitting is the answer all the time. It's not, panacea. So finding other strategies that feel more supportive, and that might take some investigating and experimentation. But everything from like, being in nature and practice, changing, it could be shifting something as subtle as, yeah, I'm going to I'm going to practice in this stillness kind of way out of nature, to being, smelling the roses, anything that feels like good, Um, and then there's can be that titrating too of like, oh, let me, all right, I feel kind of resourced and full. Like, oh, let's see what bringing that into a particular practice where you're kind of communicating, where there's that kind of like layer of numbness, and let's see, kind of going back and forth. Like if filling myself up with a different type of practice before going into this practice. But again, I don't know. I don't have the experience, but there's just some thoughts.
Do you have any thoughts about what I said specifically around the piece of it doesn't feel safe to let myself try to feel safe in this? I was thinking about that with titration. Because I tried that, right? I looked at the trees, I love trees. And then that voice came up and was like, nope, F that. Like, don't try to let yourself relax. You know?
And what's your response usually to that voice? Because that's where I would start in my kind of, if I'm going to do a linear kind of thing. I say, oh, don't do that. And then oh, can I work like from, there might be some meditation stuff. It might be some journaling involved. Like it might be a, complex, practices together. But yeah, working, yeah, in the sense of you don't deserve to feel safe, or yeah, I mean, just like countering it for me, because wise effort in this kind of in the sutta like linear order. The last one is like, and it's almost, and we had this conversation too, I think, but it's almost the Buddha describes it as this physical, like, let me push this out of the way. I've even heard of like putting on music, distracting ourselves, all this, whatever we can find as skillful means. Because I can call bullshit all I want and remind you of that you do deserve, right? And you can even, I imagine, have moments where that counter is not coming up. Um, but yeah, I would fight back, you know, but with love, because I'm understanding that when I cause harm, it's not coming from wisdom, it's coming from confusion, fear, pain, right? So, more compassion for that you don't deserve. Oh, what a strategy to try to protect myself. Whatever it is, the strategy to avoid, I mean, even the peace. God, what is that? That might not, feel normal or thing that we're used to. But yeah, I'd fight back in both ways. I'd be like, bullshit, I do deserve this, and I love you. Keep, come have a sip of tea when you're feeling ready. Like that kind of relationship with it. Um, but in the experience I have with kind of tyranny, my own brand of it, um, it took a lot of different strategies, from therapists to my friends to the Dharma to Toltec retreat to all, other things, getting a coach. I mean, I just had to, because I was really, really, the suicidal, depressive type, invasive thoughts, just constantly, hating myself. Yeah. Mhm. Fight those demons in whatever ways, that we can. And yeah. Thank you, Jordan. Mm. See another hand?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I appreciate what you said about skillful means is it's 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 it never duplicates itself. It's not something, it's always different. And
Mm.
it's a remarkable uh, uh, effort. You know, it's a worthy effort.
Mm.
Like you said, using a lot of different thoughts and experiences to help us to navigate can be the way that we need to do it. And it would seem to me that with time and effort in the practice and faith, you know, in the practice, can be very fruitful, you know, can be really beautifully fruitful. But you know, there's darkness at times. And no, we're not happy with that.
Mhm.
But as I say, skillful means is it can at times feel like a complicated thing. Where do I turn? And listening to different teachers too can be very interesting, you know, can be very valuable.
Absolutely.
Because all of a sudden someone will say something, oh my God, yeah, that really makes sense to me.
Mm.
So just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and you know, with these things, we're not, please, yeah, that we don't, you know, we get to question, and it's like we don't have to do these things. We do them because we either see the wisdom in it, right? Um, yeah, and not everybody wants to be free. Some people just want to be comfortable or happy, right? Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Candle, she, hers. Um, between the instruction of looking outside and what you were just saying, Jordan, something that came back around to me, especially because Earth Day was last week, and touching the earth, and the reminder for me when things are really intensely repeating themselves in my mind somehow that's, you know, putting me down for something. I really always think about the Buddha touching the earth and his last hours with Mara and saying, you know, I see you, Mara. So that every time this repeated thought comes back, um, going away from the unskillful and going toward the skillful by just, like you said, just cutting it off. Like, I see you, Mara.
Mm.
Just cutting off what the negative thought pattern is that's stopping me from being open-hearted to myself and or accepting the larger picture of softening my heart and having kindness and compassion be my main goal instead of trying to accomplish something with my thought pattern. You know, if I just say, I see you, Mara, or let go of what's unskillful. I mean, the Buddha was pretty dramatic when he said to just let go of things. I like the one about when you're sleepy. You know, you pull your ears, you jump up and down, you know, you do all kinds of things that aren't necessarily accepting of what's being given to us.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing, Jordan. Anybody else want to say anything before we start to close up?
Hi, everyone. I'm Steve, he, him. And the thing that made the most sense to me out of your talk tonight was when you said, I don't have to like everybody,
Mm.
but loving them is in my own best interest.
Mm.
That wasn't exactly your words, but that's the way I interpreted it when I heard it. If I see things that I don't like and I respond unskillfully with more hatred, more violence, more bad words and things of that nature, nobody benefits from that. And I think that's one of the key things that helped me in my own personal development, because that was one of my flaws, is whenever I used to see something I didn't like, I always wanted to like annihilate it. I wanted to win. And I had a lot of difficulty with accepting that this is what is. And the best way to transmute it into something positive is to not try to annihilate it, but to at least understand it.
Mm.
And I don't have to like it, but if I utilize skillful means and love and compassion towards it, it works out in everybody's best interest.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Dedication to merit. Mm. All right. Thank you all for your kind, loving attention, your grace. Um, and as we all know that this is not some belly button gazing kind of like just for me. I'm gonna do this practice and I'm gonna be free and I'm gonna enjoy it just for myself. No, this is tradition to offer this out, right? So just take a moment, and you don't have to. Your posture is spiritual enough, just as it is. Just taking a moment to land back in the body. There were some spoken out reflections on goodness or insights. Just reflecting on your own, any goodness that's come from gathering in this way, whether it's opportunity to practice more compassion, patience, empathy, a moment of letting go, a moment of forgiveness, acceptance, whatever it was. We generate that and offer it out to, we go through this like may all beings, but we'll get there. Let's keep it real, realistic. So folks in our homes, this is for you. The folks in our neighborhood, this is for you. For my allies and my comrades, this is for you. For the folks out there who are so confused, so much pain, so afraid, don't have the resources that they need, that spilling their pain onto other people, this is for you. And for the folks being spilled on, this is for you. So may all beings, including ourselves, be happy. May we allow ourselves to be happy, finding moments that don't suck. May we be at ease even when things aren't so easy. And may we continue to do this beautiful, arduous work for our personal and collective liberation. I haven't rang a bell in a long time. Boom. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you.
And as most of us know, the teachings are given freely, and due to many circumstances and some generosity of people in our Sangha, we are now going to be in this room every week. So even though we're a tiny but mighty Sangha, and you know, the teachings have come down for 2,600 years from monks and nuns and lay people, and we have this precious human birth to be able to practice the Dharma in this lifetime and still be able to hear the teachings from all walks of life. And so we have on the back table, there's some QR codes, and maybe you'll put one in the chat before the meeting ends. There's a QR code, there's a Dana box back there for us to continue the teachings and continue bringing wonderful people like Enrico here. And also there's a QR code back there for Enrique to be able to honor his teaching. And if there's any question about it, you can always go to our website, Pacific Northwest Meditation. The website is PNW Meditation. I get the N's and the M's mixed up. PNWmeditation.org. And there's a place to donate there. And if you want to make a note on it that the donation is for Enrique, then we can pass it along. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Enrique, and take care, everyone.
Thank you too.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Remember to live a life you love.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Care. Much love.
Mm.